You are live.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Welcome to the Public Works Committee meeting. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Bruno, Mr. Dickinson on the second. All those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the minutes are approved. Thank you. Without objection, we'll begin with the DPW agenda. Kevin, what do we have?
The first item we have is the new contract. This is for the Sagamore retaining wall construction project. The bids are out right now. The bids are due 11/4. I will have whoever that contractor may be at that time or before the board meeting, but this would be to award a new contract to the lowest responsive bidder.
I can bring this to the floor for consideration. Mr. Dickinson on the motion, Mr. Merlino on the second, and you will have the results to the board.
I will.
Ms. Perry.
Yeah. Did it ever get bid before?
It did get bid before, and that was significantly over.
So we're rebidding it.
Yes, the original bid, the original amount was about $700,000 project, and the bid came in at 1.5 million.
Okay, so we decided.
So we did a redesign on the project and put it back out to bid.
Hey, then let's move to question. All those in favor of the new contract signify by saying aye. Opposed, carried. Second item, Kevin.
Next item is to amend the Beach Road parking lot to reflect additional revenue for payment to the Village of Lake George. This is in the amount of under 470 for Beach Road parking lot for $25,000, and the revenue code would be 1627-2566 Beach Road parking.
Okay, let's bring this forward for.
Question.
Second. Mr. Bruno on the second, Dennis.
What is it? 25,000.
This was just what wasn't reflected in the budget for revenue for last year, and then the payment to the village as well for the sewer plan that we were given.
Are we paying whatever revenue we get from the beach road?
Up to $75,000. Anything above the $75,000 is the county's.
Right then. Any further discussion? There being none, if we're ready for the question, all those in favor of amending the town budget, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Item 3, Kevin.
The next item we have on there is to close the capital project. This is the closure of H371, which was the Horicon Avenue sewer extension. And the money will be returned to the general fund in the amount of $2,174.66.
Mr. Brown on the motion, was that Mr. Dickinson on the second? Thank you. Any discussion? We're ready for the question. All those in favor of closing this capital project signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Next item we have on there is a notice of intent to fill a position of an MEO light number 2. This is due to a resignation.
Okay, let's bring this forward for consideration. Mr. Dickinson on the motion, Mr. Merlino on the second. Any discussion?
Dropping like flies they are. Kevin, I asked somebody this morning.
Well, let me just say, I mean, you've had this position, the light position for some time, and it's been a very important feeder position for you. We've moved in a similar vein in Bolton as well. It's now we call it a trainee position to try to get people to want to earn their CDL and become equipment operators. So yes, Kevin.
I was just going to add on to that is for any of you who do not have a town, damage, this is for your benefit. We used to do the CDL training in-house. So we always had it that I would bring in an MEO light and they would not have to have a CDL coming in the door. It used to be that we required them to have a CDL. We no longer do that because we could do the training in-house, and within 6 months of me appointing them as an MEO light, they would be required to get their CDL within that 6 months time. If they weren't, then we weren't keeping them. There was some kind of, a couple minor that might have gone beyond the 6 months because it was just a matter of getting the schedule for their permitting and then for their CDL. Now the federal motor carrier has created a new rule where they have to go through this entry-level driver training program, which basically the only place that around here is putting it on is BOS. We're actually trying to, in the county, have a few of our staff members take the course so that we can train the trainers, which if my staff are able to do that, I think to some degree they would be looking for some compensation on it. But furthermore, we could use that to have the towns, we could train the town staff as well for a small fee, of course. But then we could train the town
Figure
staff so that when the supervisor in Bolton gets a trainee in here, we could actually train them to do that entry level driver training. And we would do both the classroom training as well as the truck training as well.
Oh, I think that would be a huge
Yeah.
improvement and step forward. I would just say that, while we wouldn't be necessarily married to anything, if you could just mention to Frank some idea of what you thought that additional cost might be. Whether we do it or don't do it, the board can decide at some future date, but I think to have it in the budget so that I don't think we're talking that much, that it will be a great thing because and it not only applies to us, anyone that needs CDL drivers, I mean, up and down the line, this is
Anyone in the county.
this is getting critical, especially now with winter pressing on, believe me.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And currently for my staff, I'm 10 drivers down right now going into winter, and I really don't know what I'm going to do. And this BOS training, these classes fill up like that because there's so many people that are trying to get into these classes to get that entry level driver training. One of the individuals that we had was willing to go down to BOS in like Green Island or Albany area because he couldn't get into the class up here.
Yeah, I mean, it's I mean, the only option you're going to have, and I just say this just so that the members prepare themselves, is that you could be looking at a lot more overtime. And so we shouldn't be surprised if we start to see more overtime coming out of our public works department, because you've got to plow the roads and you only do just so many miles just so fast. And so on the one hand, you're not expending it, there's not filling the position, but on the other hand, you're going to be spending more money on the overtime, assuming for the moment the folks will work the overtime, right? Right, Mr. Brennan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What's a time frame rough to get this set up, so to speak?
First thing I would have to do is I would have to get my staff, at least the 2 individuals that have shown interest in doing the training, to our own staff. They have to get the classes first. Typically, they're a couple months. I think I made the committee aware of this as well, as I've been working with Liza in employment and training, that if I have any new individuals currently coming in, that she may have or has the ability to provide some funding to cover the cost for these individuals to go to the training. Right now for a class B,
Where they can find it.
Right now, the class B cost is about $1,700 and the class A cost is about $2,900. So there's a significant cost to both. So if I can get into one, and I've been pushing the 2 individuals showing interest to get that they can get into the next one. Which I believe this one's over in December. So it would be the January, I think the January they would start up again.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
I would just put this out that I know during the height of COVID, not that we're not still involved, but that we had a plan, a mutual aid plan, because you could lose an entire town highway department. And then what do you do? And if you do it, if you lose it in the dead of winter, then what? Right? And so I asked the superintendent to have to talk to the town highway superintendents and have an emergency response plan in place so that we can respond in those situations. And I think, Kevin, going forward, maybe you need to put some framework together whereby if that should be an issue, and it doesn't matter where it is, whether it's in Queensbury or Lake George or wherever, that highway superintendent can make a call and the cavalry comes running, you know.
Yeah, I've done that, and we especially did it during COVID. I think most towns agreed, most towns agreed that they would definitely jump on board and assist us if we needed, and we said the same to them. If any one of the shops that would go down, we would assist them as well. one of the things that I was looking at for the county as far as going into this year. If I don't have enough staff, there's still 2 towns that do not contract with the county as far as snow removal. One of them is the town of Queensbury, and then it was the town of Johnsburg. So there's the potential that we could at least maybe for some roads initiate some portion of that contract so that maybe they would pick up some of those roads as well. If it comes to that, I'm not sure right now that it's going to come to that. We shall see.
Yeah, although I'm reluctant to want to say this. I mean, if you wanted to have a discussion on. I don't know what our ability is going to be, but on County Route 11, if we need to have some sort of discussion on County Route 11 for salting. Let's at least have the discussion, all right? And maybe something, I don't know.
And we're just we're definitely, with the equipment that we have this year, we have all new trackers on our trucks for the reduction of salt. We have the brine truck as well as 2 smaller brine trucks ready to go this year, all up and running. So we're ready. It's just I don't have enough staff to cover all of it, but we're definitely ready with all the technology and such in place. So
Yeah, you can remember these people are climbing into a $250,000-$260,000 piece of equipment during the worst possible weather, not only in terms of road condition, but visibility and everything else. This is not. This is serious business, and this is not everyone's cut out for this, believe me.
and that's one of the reasons that the medium position that I have open, and that's our next resolution is to fill a medium position. Is I want my I want the staff trained to be able to get into this piece of equipment. As Ron said, it's a $230,000 piece of equipment. And there's 3 roads in particular in the county Route 11, County Route 35, which is Diamond Point, and Call Street, that you need to have experience to salt and plow those roads. We've had incidences on County Route 11 and Diamond Point where we've lost a truck off the side of the road because of inexperience. So.
Believe me, if you're slipping and sliding, you don't.
With 40,000 pounds, you're not going to stop.
On a piece of equipment like that, trust me. That motion was made by. Dixon, Ms. Merlino, would you amend your motion to include item 6, the medium, as well?
Yes.
Okay, motion amended for both items 5 and 6. Are we ready for the question then? All those in favor of approving the filling of the light and the medium position, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Carried.
The last item we have, which I handed out today to everyone, is a resolution. It's a miscellaneous resolution. It's to provide a resolution allowing Cornell Cooperative Extension use of county-owned property. Cornell is applying for some grant funding. And the grant funding they're applying for requires them to either have a letter for property that they're using or from a municipality resolution. So in the details, I basically have the wording, which basically says the County of Warren Board of Supervisors hereby resolved to allow Cornell Cooperative Extension of Warren County the use of the property and buildings currently leased to Cornell Cooperative Extension of Warren County at 377 Schroon River Road for a period of no less than 5 years for the operation of the Warren County Youth Fair and a Heritage Festival during the first Saturday in August annually. So that would allow them to use that for the next 5 years and apply for the grant funding.
No motion, Mr. Merlino on the motion, Mr. Stroud on the second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. We move on to
We'll just I'm going to do a very, very quick update for road projects. So completed projects for this year, and I don't have all the dollar numbers, but I hope to come back next month and show you, hopefully a lot of savings on some of these projects. But Bolton Landing Riverbank completed, Church Street completed in Chester, Attica Drive in Chester complete, Friends Lake Road in Chester complete, Landon Hill Road in Chester complete, Summit Drive in Hague is complete, Watering Tub, Town of Horicon is complete, South Johnsburg Road reclamation in the Town of Johnsburg is complete, Pilot Knob Road, Town of Queensbury is completed, Hadley Road in Stony Creek is completed, and Harrington Hill Road in Warrensburg is completed. Currently ongoing projects is Fort George Road. They milled it last week and they're probably not with the weather today, but over the next couple of days, they'll do a paving on that. And we also did Betty Little Boulevard. Bay Road over Glen Lake, scheduled completion, well, it says December, but we are talking about the last week of November to have that completed. And then Stony Creek Road, they should have started yesterday on doing the tree clearing so that they can get the temporary bridge in. The final of federal aid projects is Horicon Avenue over Finkelbrook in the town of Bolton is completed. They may have had some minor punch list items and there's some paving that we're going to do on that one next year. Palisades Road over Brant Lake is completed and Bay Road, County Route 7 over Halfway Brook in the town of Queensbury at the lower end next to Quaker has also been completed. And I think that's it as far as projects for now.
Are they, can I ask a question? At Bay Road, Southerly Bridge, if you will, that project, they still haven't completed the replacement of the traffic markings at the intersection of Quaker Road
As of
Glenwood. Yesterday,
okay,
were they
that's one of the punch list items that they
And-
have out there.
additionally at the intersection of Bay and Quaker. And I know I keep talking about this, but it could be serious. I think that if you don't have the proper traffic markings and something happens, the county's gonna be liable. You agree? So I would, they wasted a lot of good days that they could have, and it's not a big task, but anyway.
Yeah, as far as Glenwood, I believe the Glenwood is complete.
With
And
the
I
arrows?
and I want to go back to because I know that they made some changes during the construction project, but the original changes that were made to that was done by the signals that the town completed last year, I believe it was. And they changed the striping on Glenwood, which threw a lot of people off. But if you look at the signs that are on Glenwood approaching that, those signs match the striping on the road.
So you used to have, there are 2 lanes as you approach Quaker Road from on Glenwood. The left-hand lane was straight ahead, left turn only. The right-hand lane was a right turn only.
Correct. Now it's changed so that it's straight and right and left is by itself.
Okay,
And the signs match that too.
I've gotten people very happy with that county state project. I thought they did a good job with that. And good leadership, obviously.
But I'll definitely look at the Bay Road one because that was part of their punch list or task items to complete.
thank you.
Yeah, and I would comment only because, you're there every day, as John is, but the project there in Bolton, I mean, no one, especially in an economy like ours, likes to lose a major corridor in the middle of the summer. I mean, that's tough, right? And that's the main corridor to our transfer station. Main corridor to that in the town, Oregon, so. Part of rerouting buses and about accident that avoided, but and it was a project that involved property acquisition, it involved moving a stream, it involved a whole new bridge, it ended up involving blasting and everything else, and I have to say that and that you still even with a 2-week delay with the blasting, you brought it in on time. By the end of September, I think last week of September, which is I think the ETA on this in the first place, and I couldn't have been happier with the contractor. I think that they operated in a very workmanlike manner and methodical and moved forward and your staff and the consultants on the project were very receptive and very good communicators. So once again, I know you guys don't hear it often enough, but there's 100 moving parts on a project like that, and any one of them can go wrong, and frankly, usually do, and I thought everyone handled the project extremely well.
Thank you.
Okay, next time.
Yeah, the last items I had for that, and this is just as an FYI, I didn't put this down under discussion items, but my fiscal manager, Betsy Hankel, came to me the other day and we were just kind of looking at the end of the year. as far as funding goes, and we're most likely next month, I'm gonna probably reach out to Frank first, but I'm gonna look for some funding. I'm out of basically my heat budget for the new shop. And the other thing for the new shop is we had budgeted last year, I think $400,000 for automotive parts and supplies, but as everyone knows, prices have increased and I think, I know bringing the budget under whatever it may have had to been, I think we were cut 50,000 in there. Dan Smith, who's my shop manager, probably needs about $50,000 in parts for the remainder of the year. I know that Betsy has looked at some of the other codes and we've transferred some money out of there, but I think she did kind of a in-code transfer of $25,000 last week, and within a week's time, we're down to $14,000. Automotive parts, especially for our trucks, are not cheap, and most of the towns know that as well. So that and some heat sources, and then I think we had a little bit of household hazardous waste. There was a little bit more of an overtime from that we need to cover that cost as well. So I just want to make everybody aware next month, and I'll reach out, Frank, to you before we get a next month meeting, but next month I'll have some funding that, and I don't have it in my budget to be able to cover all those expenses.
Okay. We ready to move on?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, the next item up would be solid waste and recycling.
So the first thing I have under solid waste and recycling is a request to transfer funds, and this is the amount of $47, and this was just overtime for my guy who delivers the containers, just to cover his overtime cost of taking the container and getting back to the shop in time. So
Mr. Dickinson on the motion, bring it forward, and Mr. Bruno on the second. Thank you. Bruno, any further discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor of the request, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
next item we have on there is, we had talked last month regarding the hauling for the towns, and the cost that it would be for the towns. We've determined basically that for the county to do this, although there are some upfront costs for the county to haul for the towns, there'd be a significant savings in money for the towns. I'll let Thomas kind of get into it a little bit, and I'm going to hand out kind of what he had gone through. And then I also have some other numbers comparing a couple towns and what they currently pay for tipping and for hauling. And then if they were to have the county do it, what the county's cost would be to them as well. So Thomas, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, so kind of in my calculations of how many trucks we would need and how many drivers. It looks like we'll need 2.3 drivers. So we can use the county's current truck and driver to kind of assist during peak summertime months to kind of help out with that. And that would bring the initial startup cost down a little bit. 2 trucks is about $440,000, which is kind of significant. But over 10 years, that could be recouped with the base hauling fee. And the base hauling fee is kind of based off paying the trucks back over 10 years, as well as yearly maintenance. And that's kind of also factored in from the number of hauls per year. So if the hauls per year starts to go down a little bit, the fee would rise a little bit. And then I calculated the cost per mile and the cost per minute based off the price of diesel fuel and the salaries for a grade 11 employee. And each haul time were calculated based on leaving the Warrensburg DPW admin office and going to the transfer station, and then to the disposal site, and then back to the DPW admin office. Logistically, it might not work out as the best way to do it, but for calculating it, that's the way I decided it might be the most fair way to kind of calculate it across all the transfer stations.
So if you look at the second sheets that Thomas has created, the last sheet is sort of the number of hauls that each town does. That's what determined the sheet before that, which is the cost associated with each one of those, whether they were hauling to Ace Carting, to Cohen, to the Tony Pit with Glass, to Greenridge. You can see there is definitely a savings for most towns. Queensbury, it was maybe, I mean, there's still a savings shown there, maybe a little bit less compared to the other towns that are much farther away. But I had asked Thomas, and I kind of had him make this up to kind of look at two towns in particular, and we did Oregon and Hague. And currently with tipping fees, as well as hauling fees, they're typically, the town of Hague is paying about $37,000 a year.
This one was without tipping fees.
Oh, you did it without tipping fee. Okay, so
Just
just
the
their hauling fees alone are about $37,000 a year. Next year with the bid prices, it'll be almost $40,000 a year. If the county was to take this over, not change, and this is just a hauling fees, we didn't, again, we kept the tipping fees out of this, saying that they would remain the same, it would be about $12,000 for the town of Hague. So they're going from $40,000 in 2023 down to about 12,000. For the town of Horicon, it went from about 36,000 to about 17,000. So, I mean, there is a significant savings to the towns, but again, there is some upfront cost associated with this and adding staff as well. We feel that, you know, going forward, I think through 2023, we have numbers from the bids for us to move forward, but maybe in 2024, we look at possibly the county getting into hauling for the town, if the town's agree to it. Now, I can tell you right now, if we were to say next year, we'd go, if Frank told me that, yes, we could include that in the budget for a couple of trucks. I'm not gonna see a truck for 2 years. Because they're just the ability to get in, I mean, I can't get tandems. The tandems that we ordered in January 2022, they said we might see September 2023, might see them. There's no guarantee. So if I was to order these trucks now, I might see them in 2024.
We just got notice at the town, we've got a couple pickup trucks we're trying to buy. They said you got 3 days to order them, and you won't see them for over a year. But they need the order now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the difficulty in predicting kind of going forward, you know, is if we want to move forward and have the county do this. It might not be till 2025 that we can start. We might have to extend one more year with the bids, which I don't even know where the numbers would come in then.
So are we the only town that does its own?
I believe so.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Spartanburg might haul their own glass.
Very significant. That's kind of more significant over time.
5 years, I don't know, that'd be a question, but I have to wait.
Go ahead, Kim.
And that's why, and I asked Thomas this morning, but I kind of sort of did it last minute with him, is to kind of at least compare a couple towns so you can see overall in your own budgets, you know, maybe what type of savings that you have. So I just took Hague and Horicon as examples, but we could do that with any one of the towns and show you that there's definitely a savings in doing this. It's just there's the cost up front to get us going for this.
Well, I think you put like George, you can do it cheaper in weekend, why would I?
John?
Yeah, and all of them, in an ideal world, would be tied into a centralized facility for recycling for all the municipalities in Warren County. And there perhaps is grant money to do that, but building a building, the costs are going to be significant. And then the packaging, the compressing, packaging. But this is a great start. And moving forward, you know, Thomas is working on this. We could go into a good area. in terms of getting things recycled.
And we'll remind everyone that that really that there would be no net cost to the county because participating towns would be paying for the equipment, would be paying for everything. There's that upfront cost, but frankly, maybe even the participating towns could proportionately participate in that, Frank, and then credit back. And credit back to the program, if you see what I'm saying. In other words, that when the town advances, the county, one town advances 20,000, another town advances 40,000, another town advances whatever. I'm not saying that's a mousetrap that I recommend. I'm saying that kind of thinking to go into this so that even though there's no net cost to the county, it's going to be paid by the participating municipalities. Even the upfront costs, perhaps there are ways of even mitigating that. Brad?
I'll take it on the committee and but for public comment, I was just a little concerned when I was looking at the internal hauling evaluation. That current rate of diesel fuel, 370, that's a heck of a price. Where can I go fill up?
You can't.
But I know for diesel for my truck, I'm paying a lot more than that, and the prices are going up, so that looks more like a gasoline. I don't know if it was a typo error, but that could change.
Yeah, that's off of OGS contract and that's for municipalities. So no, you can't fill up your truck.
Darn, that's a
And that changes every month.
Yeah.
That changes every month. We update those numbers every single month, especially when we do the fuel cost of the towns.
All right, just one, like I said, I just thought it, and if it was $1 more, that would really, if these trucks that get, 3.5 miles a gallon, if we're lucky.
And maybe, for 2023, even though it pains me to say this, it would be nice to see things move forward more quickly. Maybe given the consulting work that's about to happen on green waste, that maybe that year of thinking along with what's going on with green waste is not a bad thing to happen. You hate to look down the road, say 2024. I mean, it's like 2024. My goodness, who knows? But so maybe there's, but I don't think it's too soon to begin to do the what ifs. I mean, it's one thing to say to the budget officer or the county treasurer, look, this isn't going to cost you anything. That's going to be paid for by the participating towns, and each town needs to understand that they're going to be paying for this, right? Program. This is going to be. Then the next question is discussed, the budget officer is going to be, okay, well, we're going to need $440,000 of upfront cash. Where's that coming from? And that discussion, I think, it would be healthy if that took place.
There will be a revenue flow too, and I hope that improves as the future moves along. It's looking better for plastics. It's looking good for clear glass. It's looking good for corrugated. So there is a potential for a revenue stream there too.
I think we have contracted for next year. That we either have executed or in the process of executing. But I think the savings here is too significant to not deal with. Some of these municipalities are going to have the cost.
Brought up some good points here, and shared services comes to mind. That was a big effort that the county undertook several years ago. It was a statewide thing, and this is a follow-up to it. And also the idea about towns perhaps upfronting some of the money could be part of that shared service agreement.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're going to see it immediately because we're going to see it in the credit against the cost of the program, right? So it's not like we're not going to see it. We are going to see it. Now, some towns may not be able to participate in that fashion, in which case, well, then their proportionate share would be as part of the rate structure, right? It would be part of the rate structure. So, for example, community B might not be able to advance any resource, but their rate would fall. Like you see here, another community, for example, might contribute $50,000 toward the purchase of the equipment, in which case that would be a credit against this cost. So we could even tailor it so that we're not leaving anyone behind, right? That I'm actually I wasn't quite sure what this analysis was going to show, but it's a big ticket item. And growing. Anyone that takes a look at their transfer stations and the cost of their transfer station, looks like that's all you need to do. Kevin, did you have any thoughts? Mr. Garrity, did you want to? No. Okay. All right. What else, Kevin?
I just have one more thing. So you were discussing the organics management plan. As you all know, we asked at the board meeting to award to GHD. So we've been in contact with them. We'll get together shortly to have kind of a kickoff meeting to get that organics management plan in place. With that being said, as part of the RFP, we had an advisory committee. As part of that would work with our consultant on moving forward and determining, where we're going with the organics management plan. Thomas and I got together and kind of discussed who we thought would be, key individuals on it, but I would leave that up to the chair as well as the committee. But we had looked at having Barbara Jowdry on it, as well as Tracy Frisch from Zero Waste and the ACEC. I would ask that Supervisor Stroud and Supervisor Merlino partake in it, as well as Jim Liebram from Soil and Water. And if the committee and the chair would allow it, I think and of course, Thomas and I would be on it as well, and anybody else that you'd want to put up or let me know who else would be on it. But I think we need to have that kind of committee established so that we can move forward with
I
the
think
consultant.
that sounds like a workable size, and if the supervisors mentioned are agreeable, Mr. Molina. I think that works for me. I think we should have an action of the committee to approve that advisory committee. It's basically an advisory committee to this committee, correct?
Correct.
It's not exactly an advisory committee to the board. It's actually an advisory committee to this committee, and I suppose we can establish whatever advisory committee we choose. I'll turn to our county attorney in that regard, but we wanted to mention some people as part of an advisory committee to this committee. I think we're good. Mr. Dickinson.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion to approve that as an advisor. Mr. Thomas on the second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The only thing I would ask is if there's any towns that, besides having the supervisors on it, is there any other towns that maybe one of your staff at one of the facilities would want to be on it as well?
I think Bolton might like to. I think Bolton might like to, if you could, but in the same capacity as the county staff, not as the advisor. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
So I would say that, yeah, I'd like to have Josh Westfall plugged into this as well at staff level. I'm sure you'd want to have Dan Baruch at least plugged in a little bit here.
Dan and Melissa.
So,
Kathy Bizzoni on the town.
I suppose you could make the members of.
Okay. I will send them to you.
And I think these next 24 to 36 months are going to be very, very interesting. I think with Thomas's good help and the help of everyone here, I think we've come a long ways. And I don't need to remind everyone, we can begin to remove by weight, 30, 20, 30%, 40% of our waste stream. That is a big number. We can calculate that, we should calculate that. And you guys, you know, I'm sure it wasn't in many digits.
And with the hauling, that'll, that as well, taking some of that out of the waste stream, you'll see a significant saving to each one of the towns.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Anything else? Any other business come to the? Mr. Dickinson to adjourn, second, Mr. Dorman. All those in favor of adjourning, signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed?